In my last video, I talked about my issues with Yandere Simulator, and off topic, I just want to thank everyone for all of the support. I never knew the video was gonna grow like that, and I really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. But to get to the main point, one of the issues I had with Yandere Simulator was that the lore was being told to us and not shown. At least for me, I enjoy video games a lot more when I can discover parts of the story and discover parts of the lore and parts of the characters on my own without the creator or the company of the game basically just handing it to me on a plate. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about games that are really good at telling a story just through either slight things in dialogue or little Easter eggs or even objects in the game that might seem small but have a lot deeper meaning. I'm gonna section off this video by game, so the game that I'm going to start with is a game called Unpacking, which is the video that you see as I speak right now. Before I go a little bit deeper into Unpacking, I'm just gonna list the other games that I'm going to talk about. I am going to talk about Mortuary Assistant. I'm going to talk about Bendy and the Ink Machine 1, the first game, the early Five Nights at Freddy's games, specifically FNAF 2, 3, and Sister Location, and I'm also going to talk about Little Nightmares. I'm going to say this as a disclaimer in the beginning that I have not played Little Nightmares, and I know nothing about Little Nightmares, but I have gotten a lot of help from my friend Jack for this video, as this is going to be a much longer video than the last one, and I needed help with gathering footage, and he thought Little Nightmares is a great example of the show don't tell kind of idea that I love in video games. He's also the one that is providing the footage for the FNAF games Bendy and Little Nightmares, so Jack, I love you so much. Thank you so much for the help on this video, and let's get into Unpacking. Unpacking was released on November 2nd, 2021 by a team called Witchbeam, which consists of only 6 people. Now, what is Unpacking about? To quote the Unpacking website themselves, they say, "Unpacking is a game about the familiar experience of pulling possessions out of boxes and fitting them into a new home. Part block fitting puzzle, part home decoration, you are invited to create a satisfying living space while learning clues about the life you're unpacking. Over the course of 8 house moves, you are given a chance to experience a sense of intimacy with the character you never see in a story you are never told." I think there's a big importance on talking about the release date of the game. Like I said, it came out in November 2nd, 2021, and that was peak COVID. That was when everybody was in their houses, nobody was going anywhere. So games like these were being released quite often. People had the ability to really learn how to code, learn how to make games, and release their own creative imagined content. So this game was kind of perceived more as just a cozy game rather than a game with a great story. And I'm not saying that cozy games are bad. I love cozy games. I am a sucker for cozy games. I can't constantly be diving deep into things, and I can't constantly be fighting for my life in games. Sometimes you just need a break, and I think they're good, but this game's story, I feel, is just sometimes so overlooked, and I've only seen people really talk about the story occasionally, and people more focus on like silly little things that are in the game. For example, there is a chicken plush that the character receives in one of the moves, and as you continue the game, the character gets more and more little chicks. And so then eventually at the end of the game, you just have this whole family of a chicken and then the chicks that come with it. And it's really cute. And people thought this was funny. People thought it was sweet and cute. And it is sweet and cute, but also it tells the story of someone who is
collecting something that is dear to them, and as they grow, so does their chicken collection, which sounds a little silly, but when people are accomplished and can do whatever they want, they collect things that they love. And the objects in this game really tell stories about the nameless, faceless, voiceless character that you play as. Now, you know nothing about this character at all. Like, literally nothing at all. Nothing is told to you about this character, and you have to figure it out on your own. So here are a few things that I learned about the character that you play as by Unpacking showing us and not just directly telling us. One of the first things that I noticed on my playthroughs that really warmed my heart is that this character is Jewish. It is shown that she has a dreidel in the first room, and then later when she gets her own place, she has a menorah with Hanukkah candles. As a Jewish person, I don't often see Jewish representation in games, so this was really meaningful to me. Another thing that you notice throughout the game is that this character loves art. It is shown in the beginning of the game where she has a few pencils here and there, a coloring book, a bunch of posters of animals, but then as you get further into the game, you see more. You see this character go into college and get a degree. What is the degree of? You don't know because it's pixelated. It's a pixel game, so you can't read it, but you can use context clues. That degree's hung up in an office with a drawing tablet, with storyboards, with, all of these different art pieces and art supplies, and by just putting together the pieces, you can learn that this character is an artist and that she becomes an artist and wants to make cartoons. Another thing that I noticed was the magnets. One of the magnets that the main character has is of a little koala, and this is actually a little symbol that the character is also Australian. You might think that I'm just completely pulling this out of nowhere, but it has been confirmed by Ren Breyer, the creative director of Unpacking, in a Reddit post on November 11th, I believe, 2021, where she basically said, "Ask me anything." Speaking of Ren Breyer, she also stated that a lot of the objects, or at least a few of the objects in the game, are actually inspired by objects that she has in real life or had in real life, and I just think that's adorable and amazing. I love when creators put their own little personal touches into games. It makes them feel a lot more human. And I would highly recommend just reading that whole Reddit thread. If you just look up is Unpacking based off of real life, the Reddit post will be the first thing that pops up. I highly recommend reading it. It's really fun. Great questions are asked and great answers are given. Anyway, back to the main character of the game. You learn that this character moves into an apartment with her boyfriend. And you can tell that this is a completely different space that is not originally hers, because her whole kind of vibe throughout the game is very colorful, whereas this specific level is very monotone when it comes to colors. It's black and white, monochromatic. There's not a lot of personality there. And it's clear that the boyfriend doesn't really want to make space for her, because just throughout the rooms in that level, he takes up more space than he needs to. For example, there are drawers where you put the clothing in, and he just scatters socks and underwear in multiple drawers when you don't need to, or he hangs up things that don't need to be hung up. You don't need to hang up your pants, guys. Hot take, just really off topic. If you hang up jeans, pants don't need to be hung up. Specifically jeans. Jeans can handle being folded. you don't need to hang up your jeans. That's my little side rant. Anyway, aside from not making enough space for clothing, he also doesn't make space like for her stuffed animals. He doesn't make space for her interests like her art. He doesn't even make space for her degree. There is no wall space to hang up her degree, and the only place you can put it up in that like actually fits the degree is the bathroom. And once you complete it, the game says that it's not supposed to be there. And where do you have to put it? You put it under the bed. This is clearly telling the player of the game that this guy does not value the character you're playing as much as he should, and does not really see her as a person with her own achievements and own personality, and more of someone who has to conform to him. Never figure this out unless you really look into the game and what the game is showing you by the objects and where you can put the objects. And that's kind of what I mean by showing, not telling, because you're shown this, you play the game, you go through it, and you can play the game going, oh, she has to put the diploma under the bed just because there's not enough space. But no, you really just have to think about it for a little bit. And what I really love about Witchbeam, and specifically Ren Breyer, is that they don't confirm anything until someone brings it up. Going back to that Reddit post, someone would bring up like, and this too, this is really cool, and they go, yes, we did mean that, thank you for noticing. And so they wanted a story, they have a story there, and they just want people to find it. I want to continue with this character's story and how I interpret it. So after the boyfriend level, she moves back to her old home, and she has a corkboard where she can put pictures up of her and her friends, and there's one specifically of her and her old boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, and you can't put it on the corkboard in that level. You have to put it hidden away in the closet, showing that she's done with him. And after that, she moves back out to her own place, and it's nice, and it has a cute little personality. But then the next level is the same place with some new boxes, implying that someone else moved in. And this new person, through the objects, is revealed to be her new girlfriend. And this girlfriend values her way more than the boyfriend before. This girlfriend, instead of making her conform to how she wants her to be, instead she embraces the main character's love for art and plushies, and also shares some of the same love, like with plushies, but she also adds things to the environment. For example, it is clear that this new girlfriend loves plants, like loves plants. There is a plant in every single room after this girlfriend moves in, and overall it just makes the house feel so much more loving. Like the feeling that I got when the girlfriend moved in and there was the house, and the way I organized it, and the way that the house felt really homey and loved, was so much different in comparison to when I was working on the level with the ex-boyfriend, and I was literally moving all of his stuff away. I was like, no, you are, stop, don't treat her like this. And I genuinely just did not like this character who didn't even exist. This character didn't exist. He's not a character, he's not voiced, it's just his apartment, and yet I hated him. And to just finish that little, I'm not even gonna finish that rant actually at all, because I could go on about how much I hate the boyfriend, but I don't have to. Anyway, she ends up with her girlfriend, and they finally live in one final place, which is a house this time. It has 2 floors, and it is revealed that they are having a child together, and there's a nursery, and it's so cute. And in the nursery there's the little pink pig plush that the main character has had since the first house, and it is just all so cute, and it genuinely makes me so happy how even though this voiceless, faceless, not even modeled character ended up with a happy and healthy life. And I'd just like to say that that story that I told you is not told to you in the game. In the game, you unpack boxes, you organize, you go to next level. It's pretty simple as that, but you get the story just by doing the mechanical part of the game. And that's what I love so much about Unpacking. I love how you can also interpret it differently. Somebody else might see something different within the game than I did, or see something completely that I missed than I did. And if you do know anything, please let me know in the comments, because I would love to know what you noticed about Unpacking. And this is what I mean by showing and not telling. The player of the game can gain their own interpretation of the game and create their own story of the game without the developers literally feeding it to you, which again, as I mentioned earlier, was an issue that I had with Yandere Simulator. And I'm gonna keep this Unpacking playthrough in the background, but I'm gonna start bringing up other games, starting with the Mortuary Assistant. And I just want to give a warning right away that the Mortuary Assistant is a horror game. It is a very dark game with very dark concepts, even outside of the story that I discovered within it and that people have discovered. Just the gameplay itself is overall kind of gory and scary. The gameplay that I will be showing while I talk about it will not have any like super scary things, because I played on the embalming only mode to get the gameplay, and in reality I was just too afraid to go back and play the game alone. But anyway, I will like include little pictures of some of the demons that are in the game, and they're terrifying, they're scary. I think about them and they scare me. Also, this takes place at a mortuary where you have to embalm things, so there will be things dealing with corpses and blood and overall just like inserting things into the body. So that is my warning. If you don't want to hear me talk about this at all, skip to this timestamp that I will put up on the screen right now. The Mortuary Assistant was released on August 2nd, 2022 by Dread XP. In this game, you play as a woman named Rebecca who recently got a new job as the game says, a mortuary assistant. Her boss, his name is Raymond Delver, asks her to work the night shift for a few days. What Rebecca doesn't know is that a demon has latched onto her and is going to try to possess her, and the only way that she can escape it is to banish the demon. In this gameplay, you basically have to do your embalming duties while slowly being possessed by a demon, and you also have to figure out what the demon is, and the only way you can figure it out is through creepy, terrifying things. And I'm like, honestly, I'm not even joking about how scary they are. I literally have to invite a friend over to sit next to me when I play this game because it scares me so much. And it's not even like the part of embalming the bodies. I'm fine with that. It's the jump scares and not like the big scenes, which I will definitely get into in a second, but like the little jump scares of these terrifying monsters. There's 3 of them. I'll put images up. They scare me so much because they just sit there. They actually don't make any noise. They just are in a corner or sitting above something, and you don't see them till they see them, and then they disappear, and it scares the crap out of me. It's terrifying. Anyway, basically, as you get more and more possessed, more and more of these jump scares and scary images and hallucinations begin to appear, but you also get to learn the demon's name and which of the 3 bodies that you're embalming that night it is attached to. And by doing that, and making the right choice, you burn the body and you get the quote-unquote happy ending. This is not actually a happy ending because it's revealed that Rebecca's just gonna have to keep doing this over and over again, because now that she's banished one demon, all the others are after her. And all these demons, night after night, are not just scaring her with little spooks, they're showing the worst parts of her. And this is really where the Mortuary Assistant gets into the show don't tell kind of part of the game. And I am gonna give another warning for substance use, because that is a big part of her character. Through a few of the cutscenes, you learn that Rebecca in the past used to be addicted to, and she made a grave mistake one day. You learn that one day she decided to go to the beach with a bunch of friends, and to quote the character on the phone in the cutscene, to grab her kit and join them. And when she got there, she supposedly, it's not told to you, you kind of just have to figure it out, she almost drowns, and her father is lucky enough to find her, and he saves her and gets her out of the water. But right before he goes to tell the police, he slips on stone and hits his head and falls into the water and drowns. And this is not the only thing that really impacts Rebecca. Her mother was also an addict and died from being an addict, and her father was also an addict but was working on being sober, and he was 5 years sober until he died. And you learn none of this unless you either A, read some wiki, B, get one of the special endings. There are multiple endings to the game, and one of the endings is kind of reconciling with the father in the afterlife. Or C, kind of putting context clues through the randomized jump scares that you get throughout the game. And this is what I mean by what I love when video games show and don't tell, because they're giving you the pieces. Dread XP is giving you the pieces in these cutscenes / hallucinations / jump scares / some other fourth thing, and they're going, here are the pieces, you put them together, you make the story and put it together, build the puzzle, we'll just give you the pieces. And I could go into even more detail about the story of this game, because there's a whole second side of the story about Raymond Delver and about this mysterious woman in the basement and like this secret ending. But it's really, really complicated, so I won't go into it now. If you want me to get into it, just let me know. I definitely will. But there are other videos on here talking about it, so if you're really curious, I can probably link one when I find one. But anyway, that's my little spiel on the Mortuary Assistant when it comes to the topic of showing and not telling. And so if you skipped that whole section, hello, welcome back. I hope you had a good time. I hope you maybe got something to eat, got something to drink, I don't know, or you just skipped it. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about another horror game that fits into this really well, or at least the first one, Bendy and the Ink Machine. The first chapter of Bendy and the Ink Machine was released on February 10th, 2017, with the remaining 4 chapters being released in the later months. The game was fully completed with 5 chapters on October 17th, 2018. Sorry, that's wrong. October 27th, 2018. The full game was released. And this already makes Bendy and the Ink Machine really strong when it comes to show don't tell, because the game is in chapters. And especially because during its release time, the full story wasn't, released yet. It kept people waiting. It kept people excited. I remember like when chapter 3 came out, chapter 4 came out, and then I was like waiting for chapter 5, and I was like, oh my god, chapter 5, it's gonna be the final one. Oh my god, like I was really, really excited, and the story was just so interesting to me, and you never knew what was going on. I should also mention that Bendy and the Ink Machine was produced and published by Joey Drew Studios, which is the name of the company in the game, which I feel like just says a lot. I don't know, it's just cool how the company that the game revolves around created the game, making this almost meta story if you really want to get deep into it. In Bendy and the Ink Machine, you play as a character named Henry, who has recently been invited back by his old friend Joey Drew to the studio where he used to work at. This studio is named Joey Drew Studios, where they used to create animations. This game is heavily inspired by the early animation world, like early Disney, things like Betty Boop and other characters that I am blanking on at the moment, but characters like that. So all of the Joey Drew characters have like the gloves, they're in black and white, they sing, they have silly little goofy animations, and Joey invites Henry to return to the studio to see all the quote-unquote progress that they have made over the past, I believe it's 30 years. What Henry doesn't know, though, is that when he returns to the studio, nobody is there. It's only him and remains of what was a studio. The one thing that he does find there is this ginormous ink machine, and he decides to start it up. And once he's finally able to get it up and running, he returns to the ink machine room to see how it's working, to see it's boarded up by something. This is revealed to be Bendy. Well, I'm gonna call him Inked Bendy, who proceeds to chase Henry, and Henry tries to escape but falls through the floor into another like underground part of the studio that he didn't even know about. And so thus begins his journey of trying to escape Joey Drew Studios, and he runs into a plethora of characters, including Boris, who is one of my favorites. Boris is the most adorable character on the earth, and I love him. Alice Angel, another Boris, and a lot of cassette tapes. Oh, I also forgot to mention Sammy. I'm sorry, Sammy, I love you. There's also a guy named Sammy, and he wants to start a cult worshipping Bendy. I know. Stick with me here. And I'll get back to the Bendy cult in a second, but first, let's listen to one of those cassette tapes that I just talked about. The cassette tape of Wally Franks.
At this point, I don't get what Joey's plan is for this company. The animations sure aren't being finished on time anymore, and I simply don't see why we need this machine. It's noisy, it's messy, and who needs that much ink anyway? Also, get this. Joey had each one of us donate something from our workstation. We put them on these little pedestals in the break room to help appease the gods, Joey says. Keep things going. I think he's lost his mind, but hey, he writes the checks. But I tell you what, if one more of these pipes burst, I'm out of here.
Wally Franks is not the only person in the game who gets a cassette tape. In fact, if you play the game, you will find cassette tapes from tons of different characters, and if you listen to them all, you'll be able to find a story within. You learn that all the monsters that you are fighting used to be people, and all the enemies and rivals throughout each chapter used to be people, and they've been turned into these inked creatures. For example, evil Alice Angel Yeah, her. She used to be a woman named Susie Campbell, and she was the voice of Alice Angel herself. And Joey made her go into the ink machine, and she turned out to be a mess. And so, after that, she swore to make herself perfect. She wanted to be perfect like Alice Angel, the cartoon herself. So she started, for lack of better words, dissecting others, including this footage right here where Boris runs into a dissected version of him, which just kills me. Oh my god, it's so sad. Boris doesn't speak in this game at all. He's not a speaking character, but the way he just stands there staring up at another version of him is just heartbreaking. But as you play through, you must have this question of, why does Alice or Susie Campbell want to be perfect in the first place? And well, it's because she got replaced. She got replaced by a woman named Allison Pendle, and you would never know this unless you listen to those cassette tapes, which are just lying around. You also learn that Allison Pendle becomes good Alice, or Allison Angel, because she had good in her heart, so the ink machine made her a good version. The cassette tapes also kind of reveal Sammy Lawrence's eccentricness. He was the music director in Joey Drew Studios, and he was very odd, for lack of better words. He got put into the ink machine. He thought that it was his calling to worship Bendy and to make sacrifices to Bendy so that he could become more, or maybe become human again. But again, like the Mortuary Assistant, you get these pieces, but the game doesn't directly tell you what's going on. You have to kind of put it together yourself. This is not even mentioning when you finish the game in completion and you can go back to the beginning with the seeing eyeglass and you can see all the secrets and the tally marks and all the messages that apparently past Henry left for the Henry you're playing as, and that's a whole different thing. But let's move on to another indie horror franchise from the 2010s that is beloved, Five Nights at Freddy's. I am going to be talking about FNAF 2, 3, and Sister Location. They're mini games, so let's get into it. Now we all pretty much know the story of FNAF. If you don't, I'll pretty much just recap it to you really quick. Two guys, one guy has a daughter, another guy has 3 other kids, one kid got bit by an animatronic, the other guy's child got killed by the other guy, and then he also stuffed children in animatronics. It's really long, there's a lot. I'll link a video to like a full theorized timeline, but I want to focus on the mini games of FNAF 2, FNAF 3, and the one mini game in Sister Location. In FNAF 2, there are 3 mini games: Save Them, Give Gives Life, and Give Cake to the Children. These mini games are in Atari-like style, and they pop up completely randomly. These 3 mini games tell the story of the murders, the original murders of the first 5 children, plus the murder of the child that was within the puppet. They also tell the story of how the animatronics came to life. And you're probably asking, well, why does this matter? That's kind of like the whole point of the game, the FNAF games themselves, that these animatronics are alive and they have children stuffed with them. But these mini games really show the control of the puppet, the power of the puppet, and what she did in order to make sure that these children get their revenge. Which, of course, is give gifts, give life. But we all don't just see what the puppet did, but we also see what William Afton did to the puppet, to the girl who was in the puppet. This would have never been known if it weren't for the mini games, because yeah, the puppet is in FNAF 2, but it was kind of just this random character that came out of the blue and just like, oh, make sure you wind the music box. But now we have a story behind the puppet and why she does what she does. And FNAF 3 takes these mini games to a whole new level, to showing the story of how the children who are stuck in the animatronics are freed from their torture. There are 2 different types of mini games within FNAF 3. They're the ones that you can get by clicking special things on certain nights, and then there are the ones that you get if you complete every single night, like right after you complete a night you get it. The ones that you kind of have to unlock yourself are BB's Air Adventure, Mangle's Quest, Chica's Party, Stage 1, Glitch minigame, and Happiest Day. These minigames can only be accessed on certain nights and by clicking certain things, for example, a wall panel or a little like Balloon Boy poster or a little glitch feature on the desk, and they have multiple different endings. The normal ending to these mini games is just you complete it and you exit, but if you find a way to kind of glitch through it, you'll find a crying child and you're able to give them cake. If you connect these mini games to the mini games that were in FNAF 2, you will realize that these crying children that are alone are the children that were murdered by William Afton and left to die and stuffed into suits. When I say crying child, in this instance, I do not mean the crying child, I just mean a child sprite that is crying because it's dead. I don't mean the, was that the bite of 87 crying child? I don't mean that. It was the bite of 83, but like, yeah, I don't mean that. I mean just like a child sprite that is crying. Like this one right here. All of these mini games, as soon as you finish them, will just glitch out and you'll move on to the next night or whatever night that you were on, depending on which type of minigame you're on. I should also mention that these also have the Atari style like format and gameplay that's very simple, it's very few pixels, and there's almost no sound or very little sound, and if the sound is there, it's very like, I don't know how to describe it, it's very scratchy, like it's not good quality, and this is purposeful. And this is also just like, this is just a me thing, but I think the children sprites in this game are like in the mini games are terrifying. They just like creep me out for some reason, and I feel like that might be on purpose. I don't know if it's just me, let me know if it's also you. Like when they're just standing there like cheering, they creep me out. I don't know, like, and not creep me out like oh my god creep me out, it's more of just like a creep me out, Please let me know if anyone else has also experienced this. Anyway, if you discover all of the cakes in these mini games, once you get the Happiest Day mini game, you will see a bunch of children with masks on with cake, and there's presumably the puppet walking towards another group of children who are all crying. She gives a cake and kid puts on a mask, and they seem to all go to rest, kind of implying that their souls are now free from the animatronics. This again is what I mean by show don't tell, because these are all completely like no voice, no sound besides like the small sound effects, like hard to find mini games, and yet they tell a full thought story, and also a way to get a secret ending, but also a full thought story of how the children are now able to be at peace. Now moving on to the night mini games, where each night you play as a different character and you get dismantled by purple guy. So first you start as Freddy, then you go on to Bonnie, then Chica, and then finally at the end Foxy, until, you know, every single one is dismantled in this room that the animatronics are unaware of. It's not in their systems to recognize it, so they're not aware of it, and that's why they all get dismantled by William Afton. That is until the last night, where you play as a crying child, and again, not the crying child, a crying child. You play as a crying child, and you walk over to the dismantled bodies and wake up all the other crying children, and, you know, to go into that back room and put William Afton in a corner and force him into the spring lock suit, which once he gets in, it snaps, putting his body into a horrible bloody state, and he pretty much dies, but except he doesn't, because the suit is what killed him, but is what is keeping him alive. This ending with the spirits disappearing actually makes the game result in the bad end, and this is because they were out for vengeance. They weren't out for peace, and that's the big difference between these two mini games. The two different types of mini games. One of them is about the children finding peace, and the other one is the children finally being able to get revenge. Now let's move on to Sister Location. Sister Location only has one minigame where you play a circus baby to give cupcakes to a bunch of children. Side note, this minigame is so hard, and I'm not saying like, oh my god, it's completely impossible, but like, you will miss one kid and then you can't get the ending you want to get, or you'll fall off the ledge. I like, genuinely, when I played this footage is from my friend Jack, but he was also saying that he had to do this like 3 or 4 times just to get the footage, because this game, it's so easy to mess up. Anyway, after giving all the kids cupcakes, there will be ice cream at the end of the map, and you're at the end of the map. It says goal, but you actually, for this little secret ending, are supposed to go back to the beginning. And when you get back to the beginning, you will receive this little scene. So, yeah, Baby claws a child into her abdomen. And just by the video game, you don't know who this child is, but with the context clues that you receive throughout Sister Location, like with every night there's a girl asking why can't she play with Baby, why can't she play with Circus Baby, and she's asking William Afton. So you learn that this girl is his daughter, Elizabeth Afton, and she was scooped by Baby. This again is a great example of show don't tell, and again, just like Bendy and just like Mortuary Assistant, there are the pieces and you just have to put them together. And again, I feel like I keep repeating myself because I am. That is what I love so much about certain video games. But I do have one more example, and it is Little Nightmares 2. Once again, like how I said in the beginning of the video, I have never played nor watched Little Nightmares 1 or 2. But again, my friend Jack, who has helped me tremendously with this video when it comes to game footage, thought that this would be a great addition to the video, and so I am including it. And he gave me some footnotes about what the game is about, and I'm going to try my best to explain it and how it fits into the show don't tell. If I get it wrong, please let me know. Thank you. Little Nightmares 2 was released on February 11th, 2021 by Tarsier Studios. Little Nightmares 2 is a prequel to Little Nightmares 1, as you play as a character named Mono, who, with the character from the first game, 6, work together to escape a city called Pale City. This game really fits into the show don't tell because there is absolutely zero dialogue in this game. The only sounds that you'll ever get from a character are from like hitting something open or calling out to find 6. Like there's a little button where you can be like, hello, where are you? You'll be able to find 6, but otherwise there is no dialogue whatsoever. Therefore, all of the story has to be told visually through the characters' actions and even little micro actions. Like for example, in some of the footage that my friend Jack sent me, there are like little hesitations within the characters' movements, and eventually they gain trust within one another. And I, again, have not seen anything of this game, and yet I see so much personality and story within these characters and what they're doing, and I feel like this is just a very good representation. Again, even though I've never seen much of the game or have played it. So I guess at the end of this video, coming to an end, you might be asking, what was the point of this? And honestly, I just wanted to talk about games that I really like because they're really good at telling a story. And I'm not saying that games that outright tell you the story are bad. I love games like visual novels. I love Doki Doki Literature Club. I love this game called Our Life Beginning and Always. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is that if you want a story in the game, you don't necessarily have to tell the player. The gaming community has shown for decades that they are really good at putting the pieces together and figuring out a story on their own. And if you want your game to be mysterious, then maybe just put a little puzzle pieces for us to put together. I feel like also I made this video because recently I feel like we've been in kind of like a game drought. I can't find anything that has like a lot of secret meaning. The most recent thing I can think of is mouthwashing, which if you want me to talk about that game, I will talk about that game because I loved that game so much. It was so fun to play and I loved the story, but then again, that story was told to us, but in a different sense. That story, they told the story without showing much, but they told it out of order, which is a really strong thing to do. But anyway, I feel like there needs to be more games where we have to dig to find things, because I feel like there hasn't been a lot recently, and I want more. Anyway, that was my little rant on how I really like games that have you put together the story. And by the time I finished editing this and voicing over it and filming it and getting all the film clips from my friend Jack, which again, thank you so much, Jack, I got over 500 followers. So oh my god, thank you so much. I did not expect that last video to do that well. Like, I'm still in shock while speaking. So maybe my next video could be a Q&A. You guys can ask me anything, of course appropriate, in the comments, and I'll make a response video. And yeah, again, thank you so much for 500 followers, and I will see you in the next, not followers, subscribers. 500 subscribers. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.